City leaders are pushing to get more homeless people off the streets. And as they work to do that, a local advocate is trying to help one group especially at risk on San Diego streets: seniors. Joining us to talk about the growing number of homeless seniors and the issues they face is the president and CEO of Serving Seniors, Paul Downey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Delighted to be here. Thanks, Virginia.
So, Paul, why is the number of seniors on the street going up?
Well, a lot of it is economic. I mean, that's what we see at Serving Seniors, of the folks that come across through our doors are people that have had an economic issue. It could be a loss of a job, a spouse that got sick that eats up the life savings, but there's a number of things that can cause them to tumble into homelessness. And now we're seeing about a quarter of the people on our streets are now seniors. So that is an issue and a cause for concern.
Yeah, and of course, people who are homeless just in general are vulnerable, but this group is particularly vulnerable. Can you outline some of the unique threats they face?
Well, if you look at some recent numbers from the Regional Task Force on the Homeless, half of the seniors on the street have a chronic health condition or a disability. So already they are at risk. But what we find is a lot of folks that end up in a traditional shelter are frankly preyed upon by other residents, younger people, who can take advantage of the fact of their physical frailties. And so it's a significant issue. They can get robbed, they can get mugged. They don't feel safe, but there also are not the array of services that people need in order to be successful, because somebody who's homeless at 75 is different than somebody who is 25, but we tend to lump everybody kind of 18 and older into one large group, and that really doesn't work.
Yeah, and I know one of the concerns is that some of them are receiving Social Security checks, and some predators may try to steal that money from them on top of everything else you mentioned. So let's talk about what you are working to do to help them.
Well, what we've done is we received a $100,000 grant from the Hearst Foundation, and our goal is to try to make sure that we are doing an assessment of the needs of older adults in San Diego that are on the street, and to come up with a plan. And we believe it's going to lead towards either shelters within shelters that are dedicated to older adults, or even perhaps having a shelter that is just dedicated to older adults. So we're partnering with a local research firm, with San Diego State, and our own team to go out and get the data. We want to be able to demonstrate the needs out there. We want to demonstrate the specific challenges, but to come up with solutions. Because this is an issue not just in San Diego. I'm involved on a number of national boards, and this problem is arising throughout the country, but we don't have a strategy for it. People often don't believe that older adults can be homeless. They don't think of seniors on the street. It doesn't get talked about as much as it should. And so we want to raise the issue, but also come up with some specific recommendations that can be implemented here in San Diego and across the country.
And in our last few seconds, Paul, what can we as a community do to lower these numbers so it doesn't keep going up?
Well, I think it's making sure that if you have an older adult in your life, that you are there to provide support to them. Again, we see economic issues that are causing people to fall into homelessness. And it's kind of the good neighbor policy. We need to look out for each other. But I would also say that if you see somebody on the street, homeless are often invisible. We don't look at them. Older adults are people that often are not looked at. So here you have a double whammy of people that are kind of marginalized. So the simplest thing you can do if you're on the street is just say hello to somebody, ask if they need help, point them to some resources, and help them get off the street, which is something that we're dedicated to doing at Serving Seniors.
Yeah, sometimes the simplest of kindnesses. President and CEO of Serving Seniors, Paul Downey, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.